You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game. Hello, you fantasy people. How are you all doing tonight? Let's get the better image up there. That's better, except I didn't change any of the little fun league stuff. So yeah, didn't get that done. Hey people, how are you doing? So glad to have you all here. Round 23, that's what that's going to be. And we'll just pause that right there. There we go. Now we'll get that transitioned. There it goes. So happy to have you guys here. We've got the social out on Twitter, got the plugs out on Discord. Please do retweet those if you would be so kind. For those of you who are joining us for the first time here on YouTube, welcome. We appreciate you guys being here. We come to you live pretty much every Monday with tips for the official MLS fantasy game, additional thoughts on players, and when necessary, reviews of the previous round, which we're not going to do this week because the previous round was like a month ago, and it doesn't really seem like we need to do that. But we're going to have some fun stuff talking about some of the new players who were added during the summer window, so that is pretty cool. And for all you great people, yes, I'm on it this time. I'm on it this time.
Recording in progress.
There we go. There it goes. The recording is in progress. Though it was kind of fun to drop in that post little comment there, being like, "Sorry, my bad," but at least we didn't get too far before Christian alerted us to the need right there. That's right. MLS is back. Let's go. Of course, we were back last week, but we're kind of back this week as well with sort of the real thing. So if you didn't join us last week, you can go ahead and listen to that episode where we talk about the future of MLS fantasy, which is really fun, having a chat with Skylar Redpath right here. So, okay. Again, please do like and subscribe, hit the bell notifications, retweet the social that's out there. Appreciate that oh so much. And we will get started. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 23 of the 2024 MLS fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by We're Back, baby! Woo! No, actually brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Find out more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our special guest, Tyler from the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord, and contribute to MLSFantasyBoss.com as the head of Team Ranchinator Differentials. How you all doing tonight?
Wow.
Doing pretty good.
Excellent.
Well,
So happy to have this.
Can't be better, right?
I mean, we're getting ready to have games back. We've had some good representation during Leagues Cup. It's all fun. You guys are still out of school. It's ridiculousness. So all the crazy going on. But we are.
Like, the way you said that makes it sound like Tyler and I are like go to college still. Like we're just some young.
We are young
Young
aren't we?
kids.
People don't know. People don't know unless they're joining in on YouTube. They don't know what we look like.
Sure, that's fine.
It's part of the mystery. But no, we're happy to have you guys here. Happy to have you all back. If you did not catch our episode last week, we hit a YouTube stream and it was put onto the podcast a little bit later, but we had a conversation with Skylar Redpath talking about the future of MLS fantasy, sort of a tease into just what we're hoping to see in the next season as we're sort of nearing the culmination of this year. But it was a fun little distraction during the end of Leagues Cup to kind of get things going as we got ready for coming back, hitting round 23, which we're going to do tonight. So let's take a trip down memory lane and talk about what we learned from round 20. No, we're not going to do that. It's no, it's been 4 weeks. There's nothing that we've learned from round 22 that is going to be influential for this coming round. What we are going to talk about to open the show tonight are new players that we are looking forward to having come into the fantasy game after being acquired during the summer transfer window. So definitely some fun changes. You can check out. There's been articles out there about all the changes here's and there's. Matt Doyle went and gave everyone a rating, and so that was fun too. But we're going to talk about some of those changes, how they impact fantasy wise, and some of the players. First, before we get into anything, and I'll let Tyler kick us off, I'm going to say the question you all have is, when will these new players get added? I already know. I've already seen it, and I'm going to answer it because Skylar answered it last week. So check that episode out if you did not already. So if you listened to last week's episode, Skylar mentioned that we should start seeing new players added into the game this week. So it's going to be a system, a process. If you see someone is not there, hit him up on Discord, or you can just send a message to the comment section at the feedback section at MLS Official, or hit up the Twitter account. But the new players should start being added in this week. We don't know what their prices are, but as Ashley is so fond of saying, does your budget really matter that much?
Who cares? No, who cares?
If you're joining us for the first time this season, though, maybe you care, and we'll find out along with you. So, so happy to have people here in chat. Let me know who you are interested in seeing added into the game from these new acquisitions. And Tyler, kick us off. What do you like?
Yeah, let's start with the sandwich team, the Sounders. They don't like to do summer signings anymore, and it's starting to get really frustrating as a fan, to be honest. As Ashley, I guess she's gonna point it out soon. But if you count it back, in my opinion, it goes back to when Garth Lagerwey left. He was known for big name signings in the summer window. We got Lodero in the summer window. We got Raul Ruiz-Diaz in the summer window. We got Joao Paulo in the summer window. Victor Rodriguez, I believe, was summer window. He wasn't really a big impact, but Cecchini was summer window. Cecchini was, I believe he was summer window, but he wasn't. He's not a good signing. Leo Chu,
big names,
yeah,
guys.
yeah. Wait, even shits too, right? Yeah. So like a lot of big name signings in the summer. They were like known as the team to look for as the summer signing team.
Absolutely.
And then what happened, Ashley, in the last 3 years?
The Seattle Sounders have not signed a single person in 3 summers. Last summer, they were the only team in all of MLS not to just do something, an in or an out. This summer, lo and behold, no ins, no outs. And only 3 other teams, there were one of only 4 teams to do that. I believe the other teams were NYCFC, Colorado, but with Bombito now that's not true. And I can't remember the 4th one, but not a group I'm looking to be a part of. It's just for such a big budget club with such a high value, who also upped their season ticket holder prices exponentially.
Yeah, it was like a 300% or something like that.
18%.
18? Oh. Why would I say 300? That's crazy.
That's
not a math teacher.
No, yeah, I mean, I am, but no.
Oh, even worse. Even worse.
But yeah, nothing from the Sounders.
Anyways, let's get on to good teams that made good movement during this summer window. And I'm going to start off with RSL. They signed 3 really big name signings in this window. They signed Goncalves, who is a DP10. So that's going to significantly help Chicho Arango up top. He plays 9 role again instead of like a false 9 playmaker type role. And they also signed Dominique Marczuk. I probably said that wrong, but that's fine. I get excused from it.
Yeah, not so easy, is it, huh?
Hey, when it's brand new names. I'm waiting for you to butcher the Cincy one. Oh wait, yeah. You have it written out. But anyways, Marczuk is like the replacement of Carlos Andreas Gomez, who they sold for 6 mil, 3 mil, 3 mil. I think it was 3. And honestly a pretty good signing and selling for them. They flipped him pretty quickly. But Gomez was looking so good in MLS, so now it's like hopefully Marksic is able to like replace that. But on the other hand, they also signed Lachlan Brook to be on the other wing for them, which was another, I think he was a U22 signing for them. And then they added depth at left back of Javane Brown. Like they made so many really good moves. And I'm terrified seeing that they already were a very strong team in the West. They're gonna be like lights out now.
Well, you
all
gotta
we need
have
is those
chemistry,
visas.
right? Like
Yeah, but
chemistry right
if they
now.
come in and they just show up immediately, you
Yeah.
better watch out because they look like possibly number one in the West right now with all those signings hit. Another one that's kind of like a under the radar signing. When we were going through this, I noticed he wasn't on here, so I had to throw him in. Felipe Carvalho for the Red Bulls. He's a
Yeah.
DP signing, but he's not really a 10. He's like an 8. I'm thinking like it's like you guys remember Jamiro Montero, right?
Mhm.
Montero. That's what
Mhm.
I feel like his position is, where he can play a 10 if you need him, but he's
Yeah.
more like an 8-6 pivot. And I think that's gonna help their midfield a lot. They might play him more as a 10 because they have a lot of other 8-6 pivots already on their roster. Who knows though?
I mean,
But
that's going to be the key thing though for the fantasy is if he starts sitting back, doesn't necessarily get involved, we're just not going to see those bonus points. That's
yeah.
my worry about how he's going to integrate.
Yeah, but if they already have decent 8-6 pivots, so why they could technically throw him at the 10.
Good.
I mean, that's what Montiero did with Philly. He jumped around so much because they liked him, but they didn't have a position for him. But the actual team, let's be honest, the team that improved the most this window, Columbus Crew. Their team already debatably the best team in the East before this summer window signing. Went out, they picked up DeJuan Jones as like starter but rotation. They picked up Andreas Herrera from River Plate on loan, who's the same position as Jones and Farsi and Arston. They have like backups that are starter quality for many other teams now. And then you have Shambost, who you also picked up, Dylan Shambost. He was supposedly an Aiden Morris replacement, but lately in Leagues Cup, he's been subbing in for Christian Ramirez. So it makes me wonder, is it Ramirez is going to be like a super sub play? Are they going to rotate out Zawadzki? Because technically Shambos's position is attacking midfield. So I'm thinking he probably is going to be like a Ramirez replacement and then have Cucho more as like a 9 and Rossi on the wing. Who knows though? Columbus just so scary, and they can throw out a different defense every week and they still
Yeah.
are going to be just as strong as the last game.
Sure.
And I like his addition in there, but I think the real value is going to play out for how consistent it's going to be. Because, like you were saying, it seems like it might be some competition. And if we start seeing this rotation of you start this week, you start next week, let's have you go 70, you go 30. I mean, that's going to drive us nuts until we actually see it. Which I mean could be fine for the later part of the season when you're ready to shore up your team and you got someone coming in that may be not on the radar for people if you get the good feeling, but yeah, that's going to be that initial.
Their defense is going to be lineup based because they
Yeah.
already are showing it in Leagues Cup that they're rotating their wingers quite often right now, or their wingbacks, not their wingers. So it's as crazy as it sounds, their defense is just as good regardless of who is in for them right now. And on top of that, they are the best defense in the East right now, I believe. Let me double check that before I conclude my. Yeah, they only have 22 goals against in the East, the next closest is 27 from Charlotte, and then 31 from the Red Bulls.
Interesting.
So that just goes to show how strong their defense is. Anyways, that's what I got for my new players to look for. Ashley, who do you have?
Just one pile of meaty French forehead that is Olivier Giroud. I mean, has he come up before, Reed? Have I talked about him?
Who?
Sure.
Oliver? Who? What?
Oliver.
I'm just focusing on LA for what I'm talking about this weekend. Olivier Giroud is coming in off the bench. I saw him in person. He looked great. Unfortunately, his shirt was always on. He played fine. He's playing very centrally for LAFC, which is kind of interesting to note and stuff. He hasn't made a start yet. I think he'll work into that. I mean, he wasn't starting for the French national team, and he was mostly, but not always, starting for AC Milan either. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know why you'd sign a DP and not start them, but it'll be interesting to see how he fits into the regular lineup, especially because their schedule's so condensed right now since they're still in Leagues Cup and they're still in Open Cup. So we'll see where he ends up. But like I said, I got to see him in person. He looked great. Marco Ruiz is the other player that I wanted to highlight, who I think fits that bill when we all try to get defensive and say MLS isn't a retirement league. Marco Ruiz is one of those players that kind of proves us wrong, I think. But I see something still in the tank for this guy. And Tyler's talking about Columbus and their defense, but I'd like to, and I don't know that the stats back me up here, but I want to pivot and mention the LA Galaxy offense, because when I watch that team, the fantasy points come from just about everybody. And when they're all healthy, they're very, very difficult to stop. Their defense is basically garbage, but where the names are that we say most weeks are Peck, Puig, Payne still. Joveljic had one of the best starts to a season I've seen. And now they're putting in Marco Ruiz, who is more of an attacking midfielder or a wing. We'll see where he ends up, but definitely something to pay attention to. I don't see him CDMing. Maybe in his age he will, but it would surprise me.
Yeah, I looked at his position in most games, and it says like, I believe what I looked at is like 80% of the time he's like an attacking midfield 10,
Correct.
and then sometimes he's like left wing.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I know him from his time in Germany, but the way that the Galaxy are setting up, it'll be interesting to see where they put him. And I definitely think that he will positively contribute to this lineup. Like I said, if they're healthy, the Galaxy are firing. So
And
could
stats do back it up. Their second most goals, only by one less in the West.
Exactly. Thank you, Tyler. And I do worry his addition once he becomes a regular in the lineup is one of those, okay, well, who do you pick? He'll come in as a midfielder, right? So then are you going, do you want Puig and Ruiz? Do you want Payne still?
It's Royce, by the way.
Marco Ruiz.
Royce.
Refuse. I won't do it. So that'll be interesting, because I do wonder if it will kind of make the points spread around more, or if he will be able to take that. And Ricky Puig has been so consistent, even on his off games. He's someone that a lot of us are picking up every week. So it'll be interesting to see how that spreads out. But I think that there are a lot of other signings that will end up making an impact in the fantasy game, but I'm only paying attention to ones that I think will give points right away or are the most attractive.
Yeah.
So that's why I focused on.
I actually was talking to one of my buddies about that Royce signing, and I think it will slightly impact Pooch's points. I think Pooch still gets all his passing bonus because that's what he plays as, is the like contributor or distributor. But I think he loses some of his key passes with Royce in.
Yeah, I think that could happen. So it's definitely something, like I said, it's something to pay attention to. Will he pick up a bunch of points as a new player, or will he kind of nerf the guys that we've come to know as point producers? So
Porque no los dos. Reed, who do you want to highlight?
tell us all about what FC Cincinnati's been doing.
I'm not going to focus too much on that. I mean, I've got a nice little mix of players right here that I can go through and I can have a little conversation.
That must
about.
be nice. You got rid of a crazy person. You brought in new people. What's that feel?
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, we.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, I suggested to Skylar that he replace Bupinza's picture with like a Mike Tyson's Punch Out esque version of like post fight. Now that he's gone, but it's all good. No, some dead weights definitely cut, and I will definitely start with Cincinnati. But I'm excited to have these players here. Fantasy wise, it's kind of a wait and see. So of course, still working to shore up the defense with Cincinnati. So the big addition that we have is Chidalzi Awazium has come in at center back. Just have to wait and see. Based on how defenders have been this year, that'll probably be more of a benefit for the team as a whole to try to help relieve pressure for the attack than necessarily seeing big bonus points there. But a big name defender coming in should help a lot there in the back. On the front end, we have Nico Giacchini, who's coming in at the forward, kind of not really replacing that Bupinza, a bit more of a hold-up-esque type guy up front. So we've got some attacking hold-up, which I think is going to mix well with a lot of the attacks. So Nico could be a guy that maybe is a bench play at times, but with some of the other attacking options with Cincinnati, it could be very much on the fringe. But a couple of good additions right there. Mostly need to shore up that defense in order for the attack to really be able to start doing something again for Cincinnati.
I want to highlight, it's interesting to me with him because obviously he played for St. Louis their opening season. And I think he scored like 10 goals. He was double digit, but low double digits. Then they let him offload to Como, right? I think, and who just got promoted to Serie A. But Como, or sorry, Ligue, what is they're the Italian league. Como is the team.
Oh yeah.
But he only played 9 games and he didn't score there at all. So it's interesting to me that he only spent 1 season away from MLS, contributed very little, if not maybe nothing. I don't know, but on the stat sheet, nothing. And now, do you know what I mean? Like he did really well here. He's only 24. So he should be able to make something in Cincinnati, especially with the playmakers that you have. But
right, I mean, and that's the big benefit with like Oriano, with Kubo, with of course Lucho up there at top, who are able to feed and go in at the attack. I mean, there's going to be lots of opportunities for him, and if he's able to draw away attention for those players, that's going to be a benefit. So the fantasy impact to be determined. But it could just be that when you see him playing, it may up the value of some of these other players that you're going to want to be targeting anyway. So important player to keep an eye on potentially in the mix. In non-Cincinnati, yeah, 100% agree. You mentioned the other side of the coin, Tyler, with Columbus, which I can't believe Columbus doing as well as they already are doing to getting better. That's depressing. Right. But I think, yeah, DeJuan Jones coming in is a great addition from there as well. But they're going to be doing well with those options that they have back there. So it's hard to really ignore all of that. I want to talk about Houston though, because we've already seen some of these players come in during Leagues Cup and make some stuff happen. So Ezekiel Ponce came in forward. Had already scored a goal for Houston in Leagues Cup. So I think that's going to be a real boost for the 2 goals. 2 goals, that's right. That's going to be a real boost for them because that's what they were missing. They were missing some of that final bite with their team. And so if he's able to do that, that's really going to start clicking for him, and someone that I think is worth keeping an eye on for fantasy as a nice differential play right there. The note I have next is WTF Charlotte, because they brought in all kinds of people. And they got Pet Beal, which potentially a playmaker to watch. Just kind of keeping an eye right there. I've not been as hot always on the Charlotte offense. Then they got Tim Ream coming in with the back, which I think we all we felt good about the Charlotte defense now, especially fantasy wise. And now they got Tim Ream in the mix. So like, is he going to displace some people? Is he there for the locker room? Like, what's going on? Right? Who knows what's going to happen there? So, I mean, if they're
three at the back could be so dangerous. I just thought about that.
It could be crazy. So there's definitely some adjustments to Charlotte that I want to see how that starts to play out. But keep an eye on them because they could have some fantasy impacts right there. Speaking of teams that made a lot of changes, Minnesota just like brought in everybody, it seems, because they are just trying to get something to happen. Christian sent me a whole big write-up about Minnesota, and I don't think I could do it justice by reading it through right now. But needless to say, I'll let him do it if he wants to. I will take that though, as for me, that means Minnesota is, let's wait and see what happens. A lot of new pieces have to come in, have to start clicking near the end of the season. Most likely this is our plans for 2025. So let's see what happens here with Minnesota. Not sure about who I'm going to target, if anyone, for fantasy right off the bat. Two teams, though, that I'm going to continue targeting right off the bat. One is Atlanta, who have sold pretty much anyone of any significant value.
They did sign a record signing, though.
They did sign a record signing, who's now got to come in,
Miranchuk, right?
And we'll
Alexei
see.
Miranchuk.
That's right. We'll see, but I am not super high on Atlanta. They've not sold themselves into the gutter, but a lot of the attacking threats that we went to are missing, and so Atlanta for me is one that's just sort of middle of the road. I'm not really targeting.
For what it's worth, and this is like a perfect comparison if you know fantasy well enough. He's like Pity Martinez for fantasy, I think.
That'll be fun.
That was good. Chicago is also one I'm going to continue to target against. Shaqiri is gone, and so now it's like let's see what they can do. Let's see what they can do. That was the biggest thing, was Shaqiri's gone. So, but not a whole lot of changes there. I would, because we have a nice little showing from Montreal in chat, I would be remiss to not mention Montreal. Several changes, again, sort of like, weirdly, like Columbus, a team that I thought was on an upswing, doing pretty well, was clicking a lot of guys I wasn't really sure about consistently targeting, but they made several changes, and they seem to be good changes that I think are going to help Montreal. I don't know who really jumps out, though, as a fantasy target.
Didn't they sell most people? They didn't really buy. They bought a lot.
Let's see here. Let me look at the.
I know they offloaded Toy and Ruan, and they're about to offload.
So they signed a left wing back, Tom Pierce. They signed a right wing back, and then they traded. Yeah, and they got Toy coming in for a fee. So like, yeah, they brought in some more.
They didn't get Toy. They sold Toy.
Oh, sorry.
Toy's to
No, you're right.
Portland.
You're right. Yeah. So yeah, they made some sells. They brought in some wing backs, and so I mean that's pretty good. They had a solid team. They brought
Marshall Ruddy from Toronto.
Oh, did they pick up Marshall Ruddy?
They did.
1.3 though. Like, whoa.
Yeah, which is surprising because he also was a Toronto Academy kid. So to ship him off to another Canadian team is interesting. And then who was the other defender that they signed? Sorry, apologies for just starting.
Bugaj and
Piercy and Bugaj.
That's not one thing. Sorry, I'll find it.
Those are the two that I was tracking. So there we go. But they made some
they
changes.
offloaded Ruan.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'll wrap up. The final team, again, just a whole lot of transfers, and that's St. Louis. Again, I liked what I saw with St. Louis with the transfers that they were making, but I'm not sure, again, who I'm going to automatically target because of this. I mean, they got Marcel Hartel on a free transfer, which is supposed to be a playmaker for them. They got rid of Tim Parker and brought in Kessler, so that was a little switch. For Christian took me up on it, so I gotta switch the things. There it goes. He was sick. I was just gonna let him do an article. But I'll wrap up St. Louis and then let Christian talk about Minnesota. Yeah, they brought in some defensive additions. They did some sells. They signed a couple of free agents, and so I like what they've done. I think they're trying to just right the ship, but the fantasy production has been a little bit inconsistent, and so I'm still not sure if these transfers I see immediately jump out as I want that guy. But it does make me think, okay, I want to keep an eye on them to see how this impacts some of the players that I'm already monitoring and how their production works. So that's where I'm drawing the line of why I think this is fantasy relevant. And I'm not going to give you a name. I hope that doesn't sound hollow
for St. Louis.
Yeah, for St. Louis. So go there. We have been joined by Christian, who I'm assuming came in to mention Minnesota. And I will let him speak before we move on to
everyone's
our next segment.
Fantasy favorite, Minnesota United.
So,
right now,
Christian, you're muted right now, but if you feel so inclined, join the conversation.
And thanks, Christian.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We do. We do.
Okay. So I just launched a Zoom app on my phone.
Oh, here he goes. This is a rant.
So yeah, it's gonna be a rant because the Zoom app sucks. You can't even see me right now, probably, because I don't know how the hell are you supposed to do this? All right, let's see. No, that's not it.
We don't need to see you, Christian.
Yeah, fortunately, we also do a podcast. So
all right,
it's all good.
All right, cool. It's a podcast. That's right. All right. So, what are we talking about? Oh yeah, Minnesota. So Minnesota United.
Heard of them?
So we brought in a bunch of players, as Reed said, and probably the most exciting one to everyone is probably Kelvin Yeboah. He can play up top. He can play on the right wing. He was playing on the right wing in his last gig and looked pretty dang good. He had some real chemistry with the players on his team, and hopefully he can achieve that fairly quickly because boy, oh boy, do we need it. So anyway, since he's probably going to be listed as a forward in the game, and because like he's a winger and there's all that like mystery surrounding slots in the game, he is literally probably going to play right wing with either Tanny or Pookie up top. And since we're trying to implement a gegenpress, I'm going to say this in general about the team. This is who we brought in is going to allow us to do that in a sustainable way because we now have quality in our depth as long as we stay healthy. So expect a lot of rotation, just like with Columbus. I have a feeling that we're trying to achieve the same things that Columbus is achieving. So expect a lot of rotation, expect a high press and a very high energy matches from Minnesota. Like what we saw the first 4-ish matches of the season, okay? Where we just kind of like just took the ball off everybody. Anyway, Yeboah is pretty prolific. He's not going to like get up there and guarantee 28 goals or whatever the heck Amarillo did, but he's going to be a really good attacking piece for fantasy. That's just going to make Pookie better. It's going to make Tanny better. It's going to make Bonji better on the other wing. Okay. The second piece that is going to really improve us is Pereira. Pereira can play a center attacking mid, number 10. I believe he's an Argentinian 10. But just like Reynoso was, but he was specifically brought in to be an 8. So he's going to play in center midfield alongside Load in a double pivot. Okay. Sort of like, well, yeah, just a straight up double pivot, and like more like a 3-4-3 formation. So Pereira is supposed to be super good on the ball. He's supposed to have great ball skills, great passing, all the things that you would. I mean, like he fits more the mold of a Carlos Heel, in that respect. He can pick a pass. He can create stuff. He's not a goal scorer, so don't take him in fantasy if you expect him to score goals, because he won't. Lud will do that. Lud will probably go forward and take shots, but Pereira will likely stay back and boss the midfield. Okay. But he is definitely going to add a lot of fluidity to our attack, and he is definitely going to improve our team by a lot, because our problems have been that we lose possession through the midfield when we try to play up the middle, and it's just embarrassing. So Pereira was brought in to solve that problem. Of course, asterisk, it remains to be seen whether or not he will indeed solve that problem. But I think looking at his highlight reels and all that stuff, I think he's probably really capable of doing it. So expect actually fairly quick ramp up. So we think that Yeboah and Pereira have a really good chance of debuting on Saturday. However, they may not get start, but the scuttlebutt is they probably 2 out of the 3 new guys, and I'm going to talk about the third one in a second, will probably start. Yeboah is probably the one who won't start because he just started training a couple days ago. So the third guy is Matusz Met. I think I'm saying that correctly. I've only seen it on paper. I've never heard it like pronounced. But it's got a bunch of weird letters in it, and don't ask. Don't at me. Anyway, Kmet is technically a wingback. So Kmet and Songbin are, where Songbin has been utilized, that's what Kmet's going to be doing on the right. So think, for those of you that are familiar with Minnesota, I think bombing down the side like a Roman Metanire. But this guy has been compared to Trent Alexander-Arnold in terms of what he's capable of doing, some of his underlying stats. He's like kind of like a sleeper. Now, obviously, he's not Trent Alexander-Arnold quality right now because he's playing for Minnesota United and not for Liverpool. All right. But he has that kind of game. He's got that in him. He's got, he's still young. All 3 of these guys I'm talking about are young. They're in their prime. They are just coming in their prime. So these are long-term signings. They're all very fit. They're all very willing to play a high press, and they were picked for that reason. So high energy, high pressing, high quality. That's what we asked for as fans, and that's what Khaled Al-Ahmed has delivered on, without having seen a dang thing other than highlight reels with other teams, that is. So I expect Kmet to be, and me personally, I think Kmet is like my dream player, my dream signing for this window because boy, oh boy, DJ Taylor's terrible at soccer. So I think that this is going to improve our defense quite a bit. There is a fourth player who we signed. Sorry about this. This is going on a little long. There's a fourth player, Diaz, who is a center back. He's a right side center back who will play right next to Kmet and Boxall, right between them. So we are going to go with the three at the back like we have. Our lineups show a Christmas tree with five at the back, but that's because we had DJ Taylor in the side. Well, we had been starting Sang Bin there, but Sang Bin is one of the fastest players in the league, and I think Komet is just as fast, if not faster. So I think we're in good shape. I really do. I think you could probably expect a few wins from us coming out of the gate here.
Okay.
And we have to because we are right on the playoff, danger zone here. I don't even think we're in playoff contention right now. I haven't looked because I've been too depressed to look. So that's the spiel on Minnesota. Any questions?
No
So many.
questions.
Save them for later.
We appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, glad I could pop in and contribute. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Hi, Christian.
Bye.
There we go. That was Christian popping in to say hello and give us some tips about Minnesota as promised. But coming up next, we have enjoyed this little preview of things to come in MLS, but we're going to talk about what is actually going to come in round 23 with our little housekeeping coming up right after this. Okay. I forgot to change the... This is not a
I
duplicate.
do have a very, very brief entry and suspensions. It should only take like 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll give you one.
Okay, as long as I can read fast.
I'm joking.
You guys
So-
got to listen really well.
No.
Going once,
It's-
once, twice. Sold!
Okay, getting out the social. Dink, dink, post. All right, there is the social out again. So again, always happy with people who want to share that for us. Usually works better when I appropriately tag. Yep. Retweet. There we go. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome back to our housekeeping section for round 23 of MLS Fantasy. Just a real quick recap of where we are right now with the MLS Fantasy Boss Pro Rel Leagues and the Fantasy Boss Network of Leagues. So, Pro Rel recap. Champions League. Current leader is Agata Walter My Rosarios. Veterans League, our very own Tyler right here, Moran Don't. Homegrown, we have Verks, who is Skylar's son, I believe, and is by points tied with Ashley for number one of the Homegrown League. And then over at Discovery League, Trust Your Gut. Moving down to the MLS Fantasy Boss Network of Leagues, our Discord head-to-head, boy named Sue, Wojo, is leading that one. Then going down to the Patreon head-to-head, again, Agata Walter My Rosarios, great name, fantastic name. And then MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational League, our very own Skylar Redpath Draft Kicks is leading that league right there. So these are all head-to-head leagues that have playoffs, so anything could still happen in these leagues. Been a lot of fun. Okay, what is actually happening for round 23? Well, games kick off Saturday, August 24th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Minnesota versus Seattle, putting a test to Christian's new team there. And that is it. There are no Sunday games this week. Everything is happening on Saturday, so be sure your teams are set and ready to go. Another quick reminder, we are still in the fourth quarter qualifier for the MLS Champions League. So the top 50 teams in these first four quarters get broken out into the top 200 teams to duke it out for even more fabulous fantasy prizes. We'll add that in post later on, maybe not. There are two more rounds left. This final quarter is rounds 19 through rounds 24. So we have 23 and 24 left for you to punch your ticket into the 2024 MLS Fantasy Champions League race. So super fun. There's still stuff to play for. Anybody on a double? No, nobody's on a double, but we do have 3 teams by my count who are 4 teams. Okay, so I missed one. There are 4 teams who are on a bye. I'll be honest, it was a little hard to catch all the bye teams. 5. Well, then you're just going to pick up where I left off, Tyler, as I was going through, because only
added
Colorado. Thank you. Only Colorado. Did that game get changed just then? Those last 2? Anyway,
LAFC is in the
only
Leagues
Colorado was actually listed with a bye. The other 2 teams just had no game listed for them, and that is Columbus and Philly. And then Vancouver versus LAFC is currently...
I believe it's getting changed.
Let me finish. Vancouver versus LAFC is currently on the list for having a game, but that one is subject to change due to...
Yeah, it is rescheduled. I just found it.
And Tyler
it's
has
rescheduled to Sunday, October 13th.
Live breaking news. So Vancouver and LAFC will not play as well, even though they are listed on your lineup. So keep an eye on that. There we go. So it was a little tough finding these bye teams this week because stuff is still changing and being adjusted. But that's what it is. No double game week teams. 5 teams on a bye: Colorado, Columbus, Philadelphia, LAFC, and Vancouver. Otherwise, everybody else is in there. Game starting at 6:30 p.m. on August the 24th, which is Sunday. Now, even though it's been 4 weeks, we still do have a few players that we're going to need to keep an eye on as far as injuries, cards, and all that good stuff. So, Tyler, take it away.
Yeah, we have 5 players that have a suspension coming up for this week. All of them are yellow card accumulation. We had no red cards in the last game week. So we have Ariel Lassiter for Montreal, Raul Petretta for TFC, Anibal Godoy for Nashville, Diego Luna for RSL, and Kamal Miller for Portland. All of those people will be suspended for this weekend's games. We also have some injuries, like between Leagues Cup and the end of that last game week. Somewhat update on Lionel Messi. He's probably going to be out the rest of the year. Like, he already is not getting called up by the Argentina national team for their World Cup tune-up.
Yeah.
So chances are he's probably not going to be available for a while. Tania Loache for Minnesota has a lower leg injury. There were 2 kind of weird subs in Leagues Cup recently. Bernadeschi and Evander both subbed out, but when looking at the video, it looked like a cramp sub. It did not at all look like it was a big injury. It was just like they pulled up like off the ball and asked for a sub. That was pretty much it. And it's like they're not even on camera pulling up. So maybe they're going to be available. I haven't seen any news, not sure. But the big injury that happened was Two-Shirt for St. Louis. He was carted off the field in this recent game, so chances are he will not be available for their game. But that's all I got.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for checking that out. And of course, with this summer transfer window, that means players are leaving. So be sure to check out MLS Fantasy Boss Discord and head on down to our mega reference, because right there, it's in the toolbox. But right there is where we keep a list of safe subs. And so we got plenty of teams on a bye this week, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. But with players leaving, that means more players are going to be in the game, but out of the league and guaranteed not to play. So definitely helps to make your switcheroos and your autoroos and your keeperoos work flawlessly. So keep an eye on that. And the Mega Reference is just a fantastic community project for you to keep an eye on. Anyway, again, over at MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. The easiest way to get to that is go to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord and click on the link right there. It's free, it's fun, and you can hang out with all sorts of awesome and fun MLS fantasy people, like people from this show and in this chat. So check it out. It's so much fun. All right, that's the quick housekeeping. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the players who we are targeting initially going into fantasy round 23.
Yeah. Nice and quick. Next week will be the US Open Cup reminder.
Oh, yeah.
And Canadian champ.
I forgot about that with it being such a weird.
It's so weird.
Year. All right, let's see here. Let me get that. Oh, social.
Did I say Tatty? Is that why everyone's saying Tatty in there?
No, they said Tati got called up.
Oh, wow. I was like, I didn't say like Tati Oluwaseyi, did I?
No. Tati Castellanos, the original Olivier Giroud. That's not true. He's not good looking. He was just so dumb in fantasy. I loved him so much.
Tatty,
Saying
yeah,
that you'd be
so
perfectly
good.
fine to see him not wearing his shirt.
No, but Zlatan though.
I mean,
Zlatan's
too skinny.
Zlatan?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
He's ripped.
I'm going Giroud of the three for some sure.
Ramon Torres.
Denis Bouanga wouldn't put his shirt back on. This is transition. Right. Tone it down.
That's right. Here we go. Can't take you anywhere. Welcome back. We're here to talk about the players who we are targeting initially going into fantasy round 23. Starting off as always with keepers and defenders. Tyler, who are you looking at?
I feel like I have a somewhat common keeperoo at the beginning. I'm going Matt Freeze into John McCarthy. I feel like Freeze is probably the common pick here at the front end. There's a chance I would consider Sirois, but I don't know what to think of the Montreal defense right now. So I'm gonna avoid that for a week just to see. But for defenders, I am loading up on sorry, Reed, anti-Cincy.
That's fine.
So I'm gonna stick with how Miami's been playing. Jordi Alba has been absolutely absurd for Miami. And so I feel like he's a lock on pretty much every team. But I'm also going to double up with Gressel because Gressel has been doing quite well when Messi is out, ironically enough. And like I always like to do when I do a defender or a keeperoo, I always like to pair up a defender with them. So I'm grabbing Thiago Martins to go with Matt Freeze for my front end. And then I'm probably gonna grab Yoshida as my back end, like fallback guy if I need one. To go with McCarthy there.
Yeah. So here's the only other thought I have about Gressel. I know that Gressel's been like the player we've talked about this year of just like around and around in circles. I do not disagree that his value increases without Messi there because he gets into the attack more. The problem is that Miami are still not keeping clean sheets. And so even though he's getting into the attack, he's then not getting those defensive bonus points. So he's still only coming away with like 5 points sometimes, which, hey, may be more than like
this
2
year
or 3. Right. Maybe more than the 2 or 3 that you're getting from some of your other defenders who aren't keeping a clean sheet. But those times when he gets like 7 or 8, like, yeah, that's what I want from these wingbacks when they go up there to make the attack. But it just still feels like when he gets 5 points, it's just kind of disappointing when you're going
Yeah,
from
I,
there. But
I can
like
see that.
I totally see where you're coming from. I don't disagree with doing a double up with that. That's definitely a strategy. It's just when I look at his scores, I'm like, man, I with him getting what like 5, 6 assists in his last set few games, like I would have thought he would have had better returns on those games. I'm just not seeing
Yeah, I did initially have Wagner in until that game got moved because I think he's a much better play. But there's so many good defenders missing this week that I'm just gonna grab and pair up, and then Gressel just felt like the next grab
Yeah,
at that point.
no, totally get it. Sorry.
No, you're good, Ashley.
I fall somewhere in between the two of you when it comes to Miami. I don't want to say I've been mean to Gressel, but he hasn't been Gressel. And I agree with Reed to the extent that the double feels odd for me. Jordi Alba feels like a more viable pick, but like he said, the shutouts haven't always been there, but the bonus points are starting to be for sure. I'm going Freeze too, but I'm considering Freeze into McCarthy, which I don't know. I don't know. I don't like it. I just want Freeze to hit because I've gone back and forth a couple times with who I want on the back end, and I don't really love anybody. So I'm just hoping that Freeze will hit. And then for defenders, I'm kind of just throwing around a couple different matchups that I like, and then I can't wait to see what rosters are because I don't get to play my team this week because I am lucky enough to be out of the country, but I'm unlucky enough that I won't I won't know who I want. Someone else is gonna have to decide for me. But right now I'm looking at Houston defense. I do still like RSL defense. I will probably put Martins for NYCFC on my bench, and then I keep falling victim to the Yoshida trap. LA Galaxy defense is, so subpar. But I keep looking at the matchups and thinking like, well, no, this must be a good one. Yes. So I'm not sure
No.
if I'll lean that way. But that's just kind of what stood out to me originally because I do think Atlanta traveling with, a wild new roster of who knows who and all those things. But like I said, I don't really trust the LA Galaxy defense, so that might be, a best of bench play for me, but I'm not sure if I'll end up pulling the trigger. So yeah.
I like the comment that Christian made in chat is that Gressel has been mean to us,
Yes, correct.
and
Not
I think
to
that's
me.
not well for those of you who have selected him. I think I've only picked him up once or twice this year, so I can't really say I've been too beaten up by him. So for me, I feel like there's a you guys have mentioned some good alternate options right here, and I've seen some good mentions in chat as well. There's a very strong lean towards chalk at defense this week, and so I'll acknowledge that and then just talk about some general musings. I think Freese on the bench as part of your keeperoo is definitely going to be the chalk pick right there, leaning heavily into going against Chicago, Shaqiri-less Chicago, and see what happens. The last time Chicago was held scoreless and New York City got a clean sheet was when they played each other. So take that for what you will. It was a few weeks ago, so there's that there. But New York City FC has not often been able to keep a clean sheet, and Chicago has often not been thwarted from getting at least one goal. So it's a toss-up. That's the reason he's starting on your bench with the keeperoo. So it's right there. It's kind of a mixed bag for a lot of these players in general. But I see why we're going with that on the front end. I think on the alternative, I mean, perhaps you roll the dice with Charlotte. Perhaps you roll the dice with Montreal. Those are some other defenses that I'll mention in a second. But the chalk is going with Freese right there. On the other end, I think Pentemis is the next chalky end of the keeperoo. I think you've got some there. I'm going with Portland. But I think you can make another argument for Real Salt Lake as well, going against San Jose, which has had some struggles. That's just tight with the 7:30 to the 9:30 game right there. You're not going to get the full 2 hours, and I wouldn't want to go with the 6:30 game instead to match up with that. Others may be looking at LA Galaxy, but I agree with you, Ashley, that while I'm not high in Atlanta, LA Galaxy's defense has been disappointing at best this year. So I've tried it a few times. It's not worked out. So I just don't have faith in them on the second end of my keeperoo when I'm going to be stuck with the players. I would much rather be stuck with RSL or Portland this week than I would be with LA Galaxy from my point
So
of
let's
view.
just say if NYC gets scored on, we want it to happen within the first hour.
No, that's fair. If NYC, it works. Like you've got the ability to pivot to that. I mean, you can get the NYC. You've got a solid hour and a half before you're probably hour and 45 minutes before you're going to have to make a decision. And if the goal of these scenarios when you have a tight turnaround like that is the first 45 minutes, you know what you need to do. Bam.
Yeah.
You pivot.
But if they get scored on in the first half, I might as well just go Houston at that point because I feel like Houston has a decent clean sheet chance too.
Sure. No. That's I definitely agree with that as well. If you want to roll with that, if your 7:30 game concedes within that time, absolutely. Houston would be a team that I would consider of those 8:30 games for the best chance at a clean sheet. 100%. 100%. I mean, potentially you could go with Houston and go with an 8:30, 10:30 game, but that makes those 10:30 games just tight for you right there. So you're really banking on that and some late game shenanigans not happening, as we know can happen. But I do think Freese is going to be the very chalk pick, but there are alternatives depending on what you want to do right there. On defense, again, like I always say, I like to pair things up. So if you're going Freese, I think it makes sense that you have the same line of thought for at least one New York City FC defender. You don't want to do two. Again, pairing up Portland if you're going to go with that on the second end, pairing up with an RSL defender. I just like pairing up with an RSL defender in general this week. I think that's a good matchup for them against San Jose. After that, Charlotte, Montreal, Houston. These are all teams that I would easily look to grab a player like the Alba shout right there. Cincinnati was definitely leaky in their last Leagues Cup game against Philadelphia. So I think that there are definitely options right there as well. So chalk, I think people are going to be going with the New York stack, the double stack right there, and we'll be going with a Charlotte defender on their bench. And so that's probably what the chalk aroos are going to be right there. And then you'll see what happens with some of the late game there. This is an ideal spot for one of your scrubs, though, for that fifth defender. Heading over to chat. Yeah, not a lot. People talking about, Gressel. Zimmerman with Austin on the road as a shout. Nashville game.
I don't hate the idea.
No, yeah.
Don't hate the idea. Hate the time slot for it.
Sure.
Though it just makes it very difficult. Bench. If it's a bench and you've got a scrub spot set up, I can see where you want to go. Don't rate Austin, even on the road, even more. Nashville has struggled though, so they could give up something. But I mean, we didn't mention them in the additions. I think they tried to let's see here. I think Austin tried to do some stuff during the transfer window. So I'm not quite sure what's really changed, but I didn't pay much attention to them because I wasn't super impressed. And the team in general is just not who I'm targeting for fantasy. So I don't hate it. I don't love it. That's where I come down that. So if I went with Zimmerman, he'd definitely be a bench player. All right, let's move on to talking about midfield. Ashley.
Yeah, I'll see your, double stack of NYCFC and raise you at triple with Santi Rodriguez.
Yep, that is why you don't want to go triple.
Yep, and then I'm keeping Ricky Puig. I like Evander and Lucho, but it's unclear to me where they're at fitness wise or health wise. But if they start, they're both locks for me. And then Right now, my fifth midfielder is Hector Herrera against Toronto. I don't know that he's necessarily popped like he has in seasons past, even though he's been playing consistently. But I like that matchup too much to not have him.
Sweet and to the point, huh?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Pooch has to be on everyone's team. And at this point, I think Hector Herrera also needs to be on everyone's team, looking at his insane bonus points.
Yeah.
After that, it kind of tapers off on who you want this week, considering there's so many players on a bye or questionable health. If Evander and Lucho are healthy, of course they're going to be on my team, but without knowing their health, I currently do not have them on my team. I'm grabbing Rusnak because this guy's been on an absolute tear for the Sounders.
Mhm.
And it's not just in Leagues games. He did it in Leagues Cup too.
Yeah.
He's feeling it. He's back in his RSL days right now. And so I feel like he has to be on your team right now. My kind of sneaky differentially pick this week is going to be Mukhtar. I know he just had a boom game. Is it considered differential? I don't know. But he just had a big boom game with a lot of bonus points. But it was kind of like a one-off game. Or it looks like a one-off game based on his stats this year. However, they are playing Austin. So I don't know, maybe he's kind of like my bench play, kind of want to see how he does. And then I'm kind of waffling between if I'm going to have Santi Rod, which I'm going to regret not having at this point, considering you just made him chalk, or if I want Tommy.
Ashley did not make him chalk. He was already chalk.
I did. Yes, I did.
She did it. She has that much power.
Versus Chicago was chalk.
She has that much power.
I spoke it into existence. I went first.
But I really like Eric Tommy this week hosting Orlando, because they don't have any defense. And Tommy has been looking really good lately too. So he could sneak his way onto my team. I mean, he scored a 6 last week the last game without having any goals or assists. 2 games in a row, 6s. So, kind of fallback plays that I'd like to consider. Paint still, considering how good the matchup is for LA, is worth a shout. If Beal's in the game, Beal's probably pretty good. And as crazy as the St. Louis team is right now, the person who's actually benefited the most from this is Leuven. And it showed in Leagues Cup. He was getting assists on almost every single goal. And so Leuven is really the guy to look for if you want St. Louis. I don't have him right now, and I don't think I'm going to grab him considering it's road. But it's just a name to throw out there.
Yeah, he's one I would definitely be much more tempted to at home. And even before Leagues Cup, we were seeing a lot of the actions just not getting rewarded with the points. Yeah, okay, so exactly. Santi is not chalk because of Ashley. Santi was chalk going in here. So from what I took for you, having a conversation of Tommy or Santi just seems completely the wrong end of the spectrum to me.
Yeah.
Like Santi was one of the first players in the team this week as far as I'm concerned. So Tommy, at best, I think you're having an argument. At best, we're talking 4th, 5th mid. That's at best. And that's only because of the questions around Evander and the questions around Cincinnati and them being on the road. If Lucho was healthy and on the road, I think we'd have far fewer questions about him being a question this week. We'd be like, yeah, Lucho, whatever, whoever it is. He's here, he's there, he's always in my team. But with him being healthy and on the road. I think that does bring them into the question. But Santi, Pooch, absolutely. And in addition to Hector Herrera's bonus points, their new forward, I think, is giving the advantage as well, because he's got the target of who to go for as well, and additional threat that teams have to monitor. So I think those are the easy ones that you mentioned. I don't disagree with anything you said about Mukhtar. I find those bonus points a blip for him. And so even against Austin, again, maybe I'd be in this conversation of Mukhtar, Tommy, and then Evander / Lucho for who you're looking at playing right there. So that's kind of where that battle might be. I love the Rusnak shout. It's that 6:30 game again. I mean, 6:30 game on the road. That's the tough part. It potentially locks me with a midfielder on my bench. Which do I want to put all those players in there? Maybe. We'll see.
Okay, might get Christian mad here, but if I remember right, Seattle hasn't lost to Minnesota in quite a while, and I'm about to curse them for saying that. But
you probably are. You probably
also, you kind of need chemistry in defense, especially. So if they're just picked up 2 new defenders, that could ruin their chemistry, and Rusnak could do something about it.
Yeah. So with a lot of the other players gone, this isn't a chalk midfield, but I think there's going to be some decisions about who you're playing where on your bench and how that's going to impact your team. Minnesota could have some flyers. Maybe you do some flyers with the Red Bulls and get lucky right there. And then who knows what's going to happen with Cincinnati's that weird team. Like, who knows when Kubo's going to go off in a game, and that's going to be absolute bonkers with the points. But I think we've hit the high players. And of course, yes, for those of you who missed the opening, Gomez is gone for Real Salt Lake. So that is why he is not in our conversation for this round.
And before we move on to forwards,
okay,
are there any, if they get in the game, new player signings that you think are worth a shout here? Like a Goncalves or something like that?
I mean, you know me, I'm always wanting to like see something before it goes. I mean, maybe Goncalves. Again, this is the same thing I was talking about with Rusnak, is like it makes me put a midfielder on the bench. I'm not sure if I want to put a midfielder on the bench. But going against San Jose, I like that matchup for them right there. Other than that, I mean, I'd be the next segment. I'll get to my other than that with my next segment. So
yeah,
right.
I am also like that with Reed. I can't think of anyone I put in my team week 1 upon arrival except Messi and Zlatan.
Marco Reus?
No. So it's really hard for me. And I'm not saying that that's the smartest way. It's just a gamble I don't like to make. So I want to see at least a little bit before I add someone that I don't know well into my team. So no, not for me.
All right, well, let's move on to talking about forwards. Tyler.
Okay, forwards felt the chalkiest out of any of these positions for me. Peck was like an auto lock to my team. I've said it in many podcasts in the past. When Peck is at home, this guy puts up double digits. Do not fade him. Like, he is probably, I believe he was the first player on my team. Well, it initially was Cucho, and then that game got changed. And then I really like Jonathan Rodriguez lately.
Okay.
He's been performing kind of like under the radar, but at home he is putting up 7s, 8s, 9s, and that's what you want from a forward. You can't ask for more than a 7 because that means they scored a goal. But after that, if Arango is available, he is going to be on my team. Available and starting, I should say. Then he will be on my team. Otherwise, I'm thinking of having Luis Suarez playing, but I'm still kind of on the fence about that. Ashley, what do you have?
I mean, that's a lot of like. I know they're home, but I think since he's more capable than that, but maybe I'm wrong. I like Peck as well. I'm not quite as heavy on him as you are, but I see that rationale big time. And then I like Chicho considering whatever the suspension things are right, right? Like that he's eligible to play after serving his game suspended. And then I like J-Rod. I'd hear Suarez to maybe for Ben. I would start Peck and Chicho, but then I was leaning Benteke for bench play just with kind of the form he was in FC Dallas's defensive state, but I don't know. I don't feel really solid about any bench strikers at the moment. But those were the names that were kind of floating around. But for me, Peck was straight in my team, and so was Chicho. Just under the assumption that that red dot is wrong.
Yeah. My main reason for Suarez too is he's an easy bench forward if you
Totally.
want him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Really?
it's okay to consider Miami. So okay, to start from the beginning, yeah. Peck and Arango, 2 automatically into the team. Already covered that. Check. After that, J Rod, easy to go with just for what we talked about the benefits of Portland already. Been on form. Liked him at the beginning of the year. He's done me dirty a few times with sharing points with Mora, but I do like J Rod. I think a Miami forward is fine to consider. Cincinnati have given up several goals lately. It can absolutely happen. Question marks on how the new defensive additions are going to play out, but I can understand wanting to go with a Miami forward. And I think that absolutely has to become your bench play if you're going from there. Benteke, he's fine. Has to be on the bench. I don't know. I couldn't really think of much. Anytime I thought about Benteke, I'd see him in teams. I'd be like, I'm not doing it. It's not doing much for me. But like, I get it. But okay. But again, the one, as I mentioned before, who's not in the game yet that I'm gonna keep an eye on is Ezequiel Ponce. I think he could be an interesting differential. He's already got a couple of goals, as Tyler clarified. He's got Hector Herrera, who's got fantastic bonus point production, and they're going up against a Toronto team that I think will offer them good opportunities for goals. So I think that could be a pretty good steal of a player, and is someone who I'm really looking at hard. Right, I've got Suarez on my team right now just to kind of be a placeholder and see, because I'm assuming that Ponce's not coming in at 12 million. Just I'm not too concerned about the budget, but I'm just throwing in someone like, well, you're going to be more than this guy's anyway, so I'm definitely guaranteed to be okay. But I was really pleased with what I saw ahead of time. Been tempted by Houston previously from from how they've worked, but yeah, so that's who I'm looking at. Other than that, I do think the options are more narrow at the forward spot right here. Quick check of chat. Surridge. Anybody have thoughts on Surridge?
He may or may not be in the article this before the weekend.
Okay. I haven't had a thought on him all season, so.
He's just coming back from injury, but he was someone that I was considering putting in the article, yes.
You can look at the article to get Tyler's thoughts on him. My general thought about Surridge tends to be the same as Mukhtar. I kind of view the reasons why you would want Mukhtar are sort of the reasons why you would want Surridge. I don't know if Mukhtar's bonus points are going to be consistent. That would be a benefit over what you would normally expect from Surridge. But as far as offensive capability and payoff, I kind of view them in the same boat as that's what you would go for. So if you like Mukhtar, I could see the attraction. For me, I just don't have a lot of faith in Nashville, even against that Austin team, and there's other forwards who I have much more confidence in, or be willing to take a flyer more on.
Yeah. We're gonna need to look at the suspension update again on Friday, because if Arango really truly is out, there's like no fallback forward left.
We'll figure it out. We'll give it a little mini update. Let's wrap everything else up with our captain pick. Tyler.
Peck.
Ashley.
I'm going Pooch.
I agree with Ashley. I know that we were really high on forwards early in the year. They were just really getting those points, but I think the playmaker mids have come back in and have started to regain control of that captaincy preference. And so for me, I like LA as a captain option, and for me, it's going to be Pooch as well. Looking at chat real quick. Got another Peck right there for you. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that's probably gonna be 1 and 2 with the captains there right now, Pooch and Peck, and we'll see.
Let me throw in a differential. Hector Herrera.
Okay.
I mean, hey, I get where you're coming from. I think that's a fantastic top 3 right there. Pooch and Peck in whatever order you want, and then Hector Herrera. I think those are 3 solid captain picks. We'll see where they end up being after the round 23 Discord player poll comes out later this week. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us, and welcome back to Fantasy after this little break that we had. Excited to get back into the games, excited to have you listening as we march toward the end of the season. Before we sign off tonight, let's wrap everything up with our plugs. Ashley.
I would like to plug Reed Connolly of MLS Fantasy Insider for holding it down for me these next 2 weeks as I go gallivant across Europe with my husband and watch some football and do some cool anniversary celebrations. So I won't be here for 2 weeks, and Reed could function without me in his sleep. But my shout out is Reed while I'm, going across the pond.
Tyler.
I'm gonna give my shout out to Brandon and Tinkerman in chat, who have been writing the article with me, Matt and Brandon, and yeah, just give them a little shout out for their help during that.
Quite the trio we have there for the article. It's fantastic for Team Ranchinator.
Power trio.
Well, then I will get to plug the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community. It was active while we were gone, so definitely if you've just been lurking around, come back in and start up that chat. It's a whole lot of fun. MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord, and of course, MLSFantasyBoss.com proper to check out the other articles and things that we have that come out, such as Tyler's differential picks articles. It's a lot of fun. But mostly just happy to have everybody back as we work towards the end of the season. It's been so much fun this year celebrating our 10th year as a podcast. It's been wild. It's going by so fast. So just so happy to have it back, and we will have games very soon. So until then, as always, good luck.